president was at the Kennedy Center yesterday, but we're not talking about yesterday because we're forward looking on this program. But I do think there's some important lessons to be learned. Much of the visit was in public. There were still photos, some really compelling ones, no matter what your point of view about Donald Trump. And he talked to the press there. But there's also an extraordinary Washington Post story based on a leak of an audio recording made of his private meeting with the board members. It's incredibly interesting listening to him talk about the operations of the Kennedy Center. So I believe Sean will have a lot of insight here. Dan will have less because he doesn't know Trump as well. I believe that if you know Trump well, or even sort of well, how he behaved at the Kennedy Center is no surprise at all. But it is kind of amazing that the President of the United States, busy as he is, spent like several hours over there. So, Sean, what can one learn about Donald Trump's priorities, his concerns, his attitude towards this term from all the time he spent there that will have meaning going forward?
Well, this goes back to what I said, at the beginning of this administration. He has had 4 years to think about the people, the process, and the policies. And yesterday showed. So there's two things that I thought were important yesterday. Number one, on the writ large conservative issue, the idea that we have sort of ceded the cultural ground to the left and said, well, let them have their silly award shows. We just won't go. We won't, whatever. And I think after some time out, it was, wait, why are we doing this? Maybe we could take them over. Maybe we should be able to orchestrate some of this and not just cede the ground. And I thought that was brilliant. We shouldn't just let it happen and say, we just won't go to the parties. We won't do this. You guys do this. We have a right to participate as well. And then I think on a personal level, if you know,
can I just stop you on that one before you get to the first one? I think what you said is totally correct, but I'd say it's more than just participate in them. It's take them over and
right.
use the spoils of victory to say this building, less than a mile from the White House, it's ours. We're not going to just let the liberals run the place. We're going to take it over and run the place. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
exactly. So I think there's a movement issue, and then there's a personal issue. And the personal issue is that Donald Trump loves movies. He loves music. I mean, that's, I know everyone mocked like the playing DJ at Mar-a-Lago, but he really does know. It's not that he just enjoys them. He loves them. He loves talking about the characters in classic movies and the plots and so to him, he actually has a real personal interest in culture. And you heard him kind of opine about some of the people that he'd like to see there and some of the awards. So it's both movement and personal for him.
Yeah. One of the extraordinary things he said in that private meeting, I think it was in the private meeting, is that he's open to hosting the Kennedy Center honors. And again, as Sean said, he loves American culture. He loves popular culture. He loves 50s, 60s, 70s, the whole thing. And so he conceives of his life and the presidency like a big movie that he's the star of, or a big Broadway show that he's the star of. And now he's got this facility, even though they found mice and other rundown aspects of the Kennedy Center.
Welcome
This
to
is like
Washington.
exactly. This is like an extraordinary soundstage, right? This is like a great set for him to go over there and do whatever he wants. And so I think people who don't understand why he spent so much time there don't really understand, as Sean Well described, his mindset towards this stuff is personally, it's like I can bring in the greatest acts in the world. I can get in the Beast, drive down the street, see whoever I want, not a bunch of liberals, but a bunch of entertainers I love, and then go home.
But
And
you
that's
go
like
back, you go back into
his own personal theater. Sorry, go ahead.
when he actually was. I would say dabbled in theater early in his career in terms of
Yep.
financing, and like this is an issue that he cares deeply about. But one last point that I would make, sort of tangential to this, the leak that we're referencing goes back to one of the things during the first term, the leak with that NSC calls that people would leak out. When people hear that he doesn't want anyone in the room, I understand that. Like, if you knew that every time you had a private conversation, some dirtball was leaking out the contents to it, you would do everything that you could to sort of minimize those opportunities and to have private conversations. And so I know sometimes they'll say, oh my God, he kicked the so-and-sos out of the room. Yeah, I would too. After every single call and event that guy does gets leaked by someone who, is personally opposed to him, if you can't trust the people around you, and in this case, obviously, it's not his team, it's someone obviously at the Kennedy Center or a holdover on the board. But this is why part of the way that he acts in other circumstances, because it's driven by the fact that you just can't trust any of these people.
Yeah, let me just say one more thing and turn it over to Dan. So I don't like it. I think it's a bad practice when people look at a leak and say, "Well, I know who did it because X." Like you don't always know. But my sense is this was not leaked by someone who was in the room, but someone who had a recording device in the room. Because the Post story has a few things where they say, "So someone says this, but we couldn't identify the voice, so we don't know who said it." If someone is in the room and recording, presumably they would know who said it, right? So I don't know if there's a secret taping system or what, but it seems like it wasn't a case, as you suggested, where Trump says, "I don't want people in the room." I don't think there was anybody in that room who he didn't trust. I think somebody taped it remotely. It would be my guess. Dan, your thoughts on this?
I don't know Trump as well, but my instincts were exactly what you guys said, which is part of this is it's an iconic institution with a Kennedy name on it. So to take over the Kennedy Center, to go right at it, I think, really excites Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And then, as you say, he's the greatest, TV political producer we've ever had. He loves pop culture. He loves, consuming tabloids and Page Six. Like he used to call it proactively to get into it. And I think, whether it's DJing at Mar-a-Lago or putting on acts at the Kennedy Center, he loves this stuff. I mean, it's remarkable that a president of the United States spent that much time in the middle of trying to end multiple
if this was a
wars.
Democrat, you guys would be talking about how he's celebrating the arts. It's like, because
no, if it was a Democrat, you guys would be saying he or she is wasting their time, not, focused on the economy and inflation and ending the wars, but, to the victor goes the spoils.
Sean and I think, are having the exact same thought as are some people in the chat, which is before he leaves office, he's going to try to rename the building after himself.
By the way, Mark, Inspector Clouseau here. I think I figured out what actually happened, and I'm being serious.
Yeah.
I think that somebody in the room, recorded it and handed it to somebody outside, because the Secret Service would have swept the room. And they would have, most likely found a listening device or some kind of, to start it remotely would have been very difficult. You're risking, if I were somebody and said, "Oh, I'm just going to leave my iPhone in there on record," that's a pretty risky situation. Whereas somebody walks in, has their phone, and then hands it to someone, plausible deniability.
Yeah, but I can't imagine they would have let an interloper in there. But as I said, I don't
No,
like to.
Not an interloper. I'm on the board.
Yeah, you record it.
I hand it to Dan.
But why would someone on the board give the audio to someone else?
Because then they can say, "I didn't give it to the Washington Post."
Okay, but here's something that sometimes happens also, which is it's possible it was in a room where someone could tape it from outside the room. I don't.
Yeah, they may have security cameras and stuff that have audio capabilities.
We don't really know. We don't know. But anyway, well, let me ask you this, Sean. Do you think he came off well in the leaked audio or poorly?
I haven't listened to the whole thing, but I don't think there's anything shocking, which is why we're not. It's Trump.
Yeah.